you do in 30 minutes. You could be on one of our 45 black and white sand beaches, or perched atop a lush mountainside admiring our stunning coastline, or slicing the Caribbean Sea on a traditionally built sloop, or adventuring off the beaten path, or hanging out with our underwater sculptures, or do nothing at all. Whatever you choose, an amazing vacation is only 30 minutes away in Grenada. Visit www.puregrenada.com.
Our regular student loan is for persons who wish to pursue full-time tertiary level education. If you are a permanent employee who wish to study while continuing your employment, then our work-study loan is for you.
Our special student loan is in collaboration with the government of Grenada, geared towards vulnerable persons who would like to pursue higher level education.
Remember, you must have proof of admission from a recognized institution here at home or abroad.
All our loans are 100% financing with interest rates as low as 5%.
Get your funding from GDB today for your tertiary level education, your technical training or vocational training, even professional development, with up to 12 years to repay. Your future success is today. Grab it now.
You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada via www.hardtalkgrenada.com.
Good morning to you, Grenada, Carriacou, and Pity Martinique. Once again, it is time for Hard Talk. Some people vex we cut the song.
Why did you do a listener?
Some people upset we cut the song.
Why did you do that?
And there's a Comancheros there, man.
Yeah.
There's a Cheros that day, man. Oh, yeah.
Brian Depot, boy.
Yeah, just teasing the guys here this morning.
It was the harps, one of them calling a long time,
Yes, indeed. And we have a guest in studio with us this morning, Yeah, and it's not a stranger to Hard Talk. This gentleman is no stranger to Hard Talk. And he's no stranger to Grenada. He's a Grenadian, he can't be a stranger to Grenada. You see Brian jumping, you understand? Confusion are going and start up online there right now, We play a piece of cheros, we ain't play a harps, we ain't play a anyhow, we ain't play a new dimension, but we're going to end up in problems. But good morning to you, Doc. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Good to be here on Hard Talk.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, we have Dr. Jason Fleming in studio with us, and we're going to have what I know is going to we're going to be playing Brian, I know you're getting at I ain't getting involved in all your internal confusion in that Steel Pan Association who all you want to get rid of and all kind of thing. I ain't taking part in that. We're going to have a very interesting discussion, and believe me, you want to hear today's program. You really want to hear today's program. So all of you that are online, who are tuned in via City Sound 97.5 FM, Devon,
89.5 CRFM,
92.9 Sister Isle FM out there in Carriacou,
And 94.9 We Vibes Radio in Brooklyn.
Yes, indeed. And of course, we're online, Hard Talk Grenada. Yeah, Hard Talk Grenada Live. I keep forgetting the new part. Hard Talk Grenada Live. Technical man adjust the thing. So Hard Talk Grenada Live on Facebook. Also, we're live on YouTube on Hard Talk Grenada. Also on our website, www.hardtalkgrenada.com. So folks, remember to like and share, as I'm about to do. Like and share the video. Like and share the video. And we're going to have a very, very, very interesting discussion this morning. Well, you expect we was going to talk about Caribbean Court of Justice? No, we have somebody coming in tomorrow to speak about that one. We don't know who coming yet, but we're going to speak about that one tomorrow, right? Nice, okay, Popo? Yeah, that nice sessions last night with Justice Byron and Dennis Byron, and also yesterday morning with Justice Dennis Byron, and so on. So we're gonna have that discussion. Brian, you don't know nothing about that. Yeah, you don't know nothing about. I see all kind of live passing yesterday on Trouble in Steel Pan Association. I don't know about that. I don't take any part. I know in the association, but I does associate with Steel Pan. That's all I know. Right. Doc, how have things been going? Yeah, your last one had talk maybe 2016, 2017, somewhere there.
2.5 years ago.
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
Yeah, we were discussing sexual issues and abuse. For young people.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of timely that you're back in studio with us, because this morning the Royal Grenada Police Force is launching their sex crimes unit.
Yes.
That's a wonderful initiative.
Great initiative by the new commissioner.
I know back when you were here before, you had mentioned something about that.
Yes.
You have any background on that unit or what can be expected? I think the ceremony should be nearly completed by now, where they're launching that unit.
Yes. Actually, there are some staggering figures going back from 2016 in terms of sex acts being committed. In fact, when last I spoke to the commissioner, he mentioned that we have actually in 2018, we have already gone past 2016 and 2017 already.
Mm-hmm.
So the need for a sex victim unit to kind of help and to not only help those victims, but also to educate the population of the country is needed right now more than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
Preventative right now is a major thing. Teaching young folks what to look for, what to expect, and having a trained unit, not only trained in terms of investigation, but also how to psychologically deal with these victims, because they are first responders. They'll be the first set of people who will actually interview and meet with these individuals after crime is committed. They need to be trained and know exactly what to say, what not to do, and so forth. So the commissioner has initiated this, and I really want to take my hat off to him for seeing the importance of such a unit.
Mm-hmm. And I know that when he did his first press conference as commissioner, one of the first things that we heard out of the mouth of Mr. Edwin Martin, our present commissioner of police, was that we can be assured we would see a sex crimes unit being set up. Also, he spoke about the computers. What do you call it again? A computer cyber unit as well. A serious cyber unit being put in place, but a sex crimes unit. So we've seen the sex crimes unit being officially put in place today. So it's a wonderful move. I think he's very serious about how he addresses certain crimes that we're seeing happening right now.
Yeah, I'm really happy for the new commissioner that we have in place. Not saying that anyone else wouldn't have been good as a commissioner, but this commissioner is making some bold moves right now to deal. He's bringing the past and the present technology together, and he's embracing it. He's not afraid to get things done. He's very vocal, and he's willing to tread into deep waters. And I think with that in mind, we're going to see some changes within the Grenada Royal Police Force, within the environment, within crime and so forth. I think his main priority right now is bringing crime down. Because I think it's on the rise right now, and it's important that we deal with it immediately.
You have mentioned that the figures right now, when it comes to sexual crimes, they seem to have increased, and so is it a case that we have increased criminal activity of that nature taking place, or is it a case of having increased reporting of the incidents of that sort of activity taking place?
Yeah. Well, in 2016, we had 273 sexual assault, and those were reported. And we know how it is here in a small country. Most time, you're embarrassed, so you kind of sweep it under the rug. No reporting is taking place. But in terms of reporting, we have 273. And right now, as it stands right now, we have really passed that, and we are just a little over half of the year right now. And we're talking about from 2014, we had 112, and 2015 we had 212. So we are seeing a spike right now in this trend of type of criminal act. And the truth about it is, I think with changes within the environment in terms of economy and so forth, all these things would lend to it. But the biggest problem is, Sheldon, is that the fact that we have individuals who would be arrested and they will serve time in prison, and because there is no system in place right now to rehabilitate these guys enough before they come out, they will come back out as repeated offenders. And those things will actually increase in number. So we have those who are new coming on the market and those who are coming back out, and with all these things taking place. So there is a need for us to train individuals, a need for us to counsel individuals, to treat individuals, so that we can actually decrease this thing that is on a spiral right now.
Now, you're getting into an area here where you're talking about treatment generally, and sometimes I'm guilty of it myself. The way that we say we want to deal with sexual offenders, especially those that are involved in children, is to bring them in the market square and end their existence. And I'm being honest, most people, Devon, we don't say that. You interfere with my child, I'm the one going to jail. You go in
first responder.
You go in by Lacroix. Yeah. I go in. I go in. Well, you could go by Bailey as well or by Wayne. But the bottom line is, you ain't gonna be able to interfere with nobody again. Are we saying that there is a way to address these individuals, especially the repeat offenders, the guys that do this, they're going for 5-6 years, they come back out, they do it again, they go back in jail, they come. I know of one particular rapist who I think is probably on his 4th or 5th stint in jail on a rape charge. This is about his 4th or 5th time between the 1990s and now. He's probably up there. This is about the 5th. I think he's in jail on a rape charge, separate incidents. Are you saying this can be addressed from a psychological standpoint?
Yes, and this is why I'm saying this. When you do the history of some of these criminals, you'd realize that they themselves, they were actually abused as children. They actually would have undergo some form of either sexual, emotional, or neglect, and so it's and where some have a form of a mental disorder that is kind of easy just to get into it, even without a history of being sexually abused. But from the time here I spent when I was in charge of psychology in Grenada for the 3 years, I spent a lot of time in the prison working along with some of these offenders. And when you listen to their story, you realize how easy it is for them to move from one stage to the next in terms of being sexual criminals. And so psychology, medication, therapy, how to understand stresses, how to identify triggers to when you before you actually commit the act. All those things are part of training these individuals not to do it again. Because we will take these individuals and just lock them away for years, or take them in by the market square and we will beat them and so forth. But unless we actually identify and deal with the issue at hand, which in most times is actually internal and past issues, and then we just spinning top in mud. So there are psychological things that you can actually do. Medication can also help to identify medication to deal with the frontal lobe in terms of numbing that part of the brain. Because most of them, they are very impulsive, and it's not that they get up one morning and say, I'm going to interfere with a child. Some of them are very impulsive and they act on the impulse, and unless we teach them how to deal with those impulses and how to look for in terms of the triggers before it actually happens, unless we do that, then we're just wasting time.
Have these sort of treatments been used before successfully in other countries?
Yes. As a psychologist, and I worked in the United States for over 15, 16 years. I had my own clinic in Brooklyn. Yes, we have dealt successfully with a number of them. I mean, there are programs in place to deal with it. And I'm really excited as soon as Grenada can actually get on board with some of these, I mean, I think the biggest challenge for us here in Grenada is the economy, is finance. I mean, if we had the money, we would have already hired more psychologists, skilled, learned counselors to go in and actually effectively deal with these issues, because what happens most of the time, we have people who are not trained, who probably just did a course or certificate, and they're the one who are dealing with these kind of acts that they're not trained to do, and most time things that just slip through the cracks because they're not sure what to look for, how to treat it, what steps to take, the right type of method to use in dealing with someone who commits sexual acts, so that's the biggest issue at hand right now. That part of rehabilitating these individuals before they come back out into society, because as you mentioned before, they'll come out and in no time they are back in again. In fact, I have remember one individual I was treating at the Manchester prison here in Grenada, and as soon as he saw me the day coming in, as I came out of the car, he walked up to me and he said, "Doc, I'm feeling it coming on. I'm feeling it coming on that I need to find someone young to end it with, and you can see it was a cry for help. It was a cry for help, because he just didn't know how to deal with those feelings and so forth. No, I'm not here giving an excuse for this behavior. I mean, these guys are criminals. They need to be arrested and charged and placed in prison. But I'm advocating that we here in Grenada, we need to do more to ensure that when they come out, that it doesn't happen again.
Now, what you're basically been saying here is that the present approach to the issue is too open-ended. In other words, even though we formed the sex crimes unit, it is going to be dealing with issues after the fact.
Yes.
So you're going to be dealing with individuals after they've committed the crime, after they've caused pain and suffering, or maybe even the death of an individual, is when you're going to be dealing with that. And then that individual who is the perpetrator ends up in prison, spends the amount of time to come out and do the same thing again.
Yes.
So that we need a program through the prison system with psychologists that can alleviate that aspect of it.
Yes.
That the person would be able to control their impulses so that when they leave prison, they wouldn't do it again. It's not just sex crimes. It's some people have they're kleptomaniacs. They see things and for no reason they don't need it, they steal it. No reason at all. They have, they might have 12 like that home, but they just see the opportunity to steal and they steal. So you have persons who are in prison like that too.
Impulse control.
Oh, down here we just say we do them. Yeah. Somebody do them to thief. Every time they see the thief in the States, they say they're kleptomaniac. Down here we say they do them. Somebody pass hand on them. They take their grandmother 2 shillings back in 1960 something, and she do them. So it goes to that level as well. It's not just the sexual offenders; it's other offenders as well.
Yes, well, and actually, this was one of the concerns of the commissioner, Commissioner Martin, in that he was wondering when these individuals are arrested, they are charged, and they go through the court system and they are sent to prison. What's the next step? And so he's already looking ahead in terms of dealing with these individuals, not just the victim. Because it's very important that we help those who were victimized, but also those individuals. I mean, and some of them they naturally they need help. They just need help to be good, loyal citizens here in Grenada.
Is there any such thing as an individual that can't be helped? One of them that no matter. No, I mean, because I all ready to build a gallows in Market Square. I have absolutely no problem with being the person pulling the trap door. I mean, I will do it. No, because is there a person that actually really and truly can't be helped?
Well, this particular case, it's still open, so I wouldn't give much information on it. This young guy who actually raped this young girl, killed her, and so forth, and I came into the country and I did the assessment, did the evaluation, and it was found that he has some mental challenges. You know, we no longer use the word mental retardation. We use mentally delayed and so forth. And one of the issue with that individual is that because of his IQ level, it will be difficult to more or less teach certain things or to remove certain ideas from him. So these cases are difficult, but I mean, I'm very optimistic, and I believe that with the right time, with the right training, or the right funding and so forth, that we can probably help, if not all, most. And
because this individual would have a day that he is released from prison.
Yeah, because the problem is that
because you can only keep a person a certain amount of time in prison, even if his life imprisonment is not life.
Yeah, and here's another problem too. He is functioning as a 12, 13-year-old boy. That's the other problem too. Mentally, he's between the age of 11, 12, 10 to 12 when I did the assessment. So that creates another problem too. That whereas he might be 17, 16, 17, you know, mentally he's a child, you know. So how long can you actually hold a child in prison for committing such a heinous act? So I mean, there's a lot we need to do here in Grenada, you know, in terms of the overall system, you know. And I'm very much aware that the present government they want to do whatever they can, you know, but there are limitations because of money and budget and the right personnel to put in place and so forth. I'm very much aware of that. So that's why I am here, and I help as much as possible. Once I'm here every other month, you know, I'm mostly with the police service because we have issues with the police themselves. You know, they are under tremendous stress, you know, work-related, seeing things, emotionally disturbed, and so forth. They hit the bottle, you know. In fact, we have probably about 35, and I was mentioned that yesterday, % of the officers are actually alcoholic and so forth, you know, because that's the best way they know how to deal with it, you know. So I take the time off to more or less help them, since they are dealing with other issues outside, and most time has nothing to do with them.
And Mimi is asking, why are you dealing with they come out and not while they... I think she's misunderstanding that what we're speaking about here is actually a program to be done in prison.
Yes.
With the individuals. And I think even before we get to that, there has to be a third stage, which should be the first stage, which is identification before the crime.
Correct.
You know, there's a movie, oh boy, what they call it? There's a movie where they have this unit, one of the sci-fi movies, but you find out replicants or something, you deal with the person before they commit the crime. So they used to go and arrest you before you commit a crime.
Yes.
There's a movie like that.
With Tom Cruise.
Right. And I'm saying in this instance, not to the sci-fi level, but to the realistic level, if we train our teachers in the school system, if we train our police officers and our people in general, we may be able to identify one or two of these individuals before they get to the stage of committing the crime. That's it. It should be the first stage before we get to stage 2, the sexual crimes unit, and stage 3, the dealing with the individuals in prison.
And in a nutshell, you actually gave the solution, which is training. You know, and I think that in a big way, we need to have a lot of training, not only to identify certain things, but also how to treat. Because sometimes when we identify a situation, we are not sure how to approach it. Especially in an environment like Grenada. Grenada is a small place, and everyone will know everyone. I mean, if you sneeze here in Tongue, you'll hear it all the way down in Sotters. You know, eventually it's a small environment, and most time people are actually connected to one another. So something happened here, you can identify it, you know, yet still you don't want to mash anyone's corner. You don't want to get into a situation where you have to call upon to bring this person before court to testify against the individual. So we need to really educate the individual that, listen, there are people out there who are committing this act and they need help. They need help. And the only how they can get help is if these things are reported.
Now, you've mentioned, and I want to roll back now to something you mentioned in relation to the Royal Grenada Police Force and the assistance that you give to the police force and so on. I think many people see police officers as superhuman. They see them as Superman.
Yeah.
That you can call them 2 o'clock in the morning and within 5 minutes they should be in front of your door. And they should be courteous but firm, that they have to be a specific way. Like they're not human beings. They don't have families that stress them. Situations. I mean, I wonder how police officers deal with situations where For instance, they have to go into a home to remove, to identify and do different things with a body that has been there for a number of days. How do they deal with that? Because you go to sleep, you have this smell on you, you go to sleep, different things. How do you deal with that? A murder scene, which might be particularly gruesome, according to the type of murder that has been committed. And even worse, where even as a police officer, Grenada being the small place it is, you may actually know the person that has been murdered, that has been killed. Or the officers that find themselves in situations where they have been involved in shootings or different things like that. How do we address that issue with our officers out there? And we know many of them would be listening this morning. I know certain police stations have us on, eh? Yes, so we know that you all are listening this morning. How do you address those issues with the police officers?
The first thing we need to look at in terms of addressing that is environmental factors. Now, these police officers, they work under tremendous depressed situation in terms of the structure of buildings and so forth, where they are and stuff like that. Secondly, sometimes they lack the resources. In fact, one time I asked the new commissioner, you have a lot of ideas and, you are equipped for the job, but you are in an environment where, scarcity there's nothing at all, and he mentioned to me that innovation has to be key, in the vision and innovation to use what small thing that you have. But the fact is that scarcity is taking place within the police service. In terms of stress, they take on more stress than anyone else. Number one, they are first responders. And the thing about it is we believe that the police officers, as I mentioned, is the Superman, because we believe that once we call them, they have to be there. They have to deal with dogs. They have to be there to deal with rapists. They have to be there to deal with the whole. And they will go back home. And most times their marriage life will be in jeopardy because they are taking their issues from the job and they carry it home to the wife, to the husband, to the kids, and so forth. And after that point, then they run towards the bottle and so forth. Even in dealing with citizens on patrol and so forth, you realize that they become very aggressive and hard. Those who probably had very mild manner, a phlegmatic manner, very calm way of dealing with things, after a while they will actually change. And the main reason for that is this, because they really don't get a chance to decrease or to the stress from all of these emotional things that they're actually taking on. So what is needed, and the thing about it is, there was no type of counseling or no kind of psychological services was rendered only for the police force. And I want to mention that there's a different type of counseling, different type of psychology that is used when you're dealing with these officers, because the kind of stress that they take on is different. In other words, sometimes it's counter-transference. They just seen certain things and they take it on for themselves when it had nothing to really to do with them. So one of my things that I do with them right now is that I go around and I teach them how to, on the job itself, how to relax, even if it's for 4 minutes out of the work day, how to put their backs against a wall, how to breathe right and whatnot, how to close their eyes and let's get a breather one more time, how to take their shoes off, walk on the sea, and find other avenues instead of aggression, because that's what happens eventually. They become very aggressive in dealing with things and the approach to individuals. So if we can get at least 3 or 4 trained counselors to work along with these individuals, I think we're going to have a more effective police service. I mean, these guys are hurting, and what I love about these officers is that despite the hardship they're going through, they come out day after day and they do their job. Some of them, they don't want to come out, but because they are patriotic and they understand what loyalty is to the country, they come out and they get the job done. Despite what, and so that's why I volunteer my time towards assisting and helping them, because I realize there is a need right now within the police service.
So you don't find a high level of malingering taking place in the police force, that the officer just decide, oh God, I ain't going in today, let me just call in sick, or to go in and get this kind of thing. And
happens all the time. Happens all the time, And not only that too, but I had dealt with several suicidal tendencies within the police service as well too, And again, officers, they're human beings. They have their own family life issues. They have their own financial issues. you know, and then they're taking on other issues as well, you know. So you're combining issues upon issues, and then what you have sometimes is actually a ticking time bomb with a gun in their hand, you know. So that's why it's so important that time and money be spent in making sure that the mental health of our officers are taken care of.
Okay. Is it a case that we need to, when we're looking at those scholarships, and I know we have 1 or 2 people who are doing psychology now, but when we're looking at those scholarships and those people going out, we need to try and find a few more in the field of psychology.
Yeah,
we need more psychologists,
and not just because you know, in psychology you can have your emphasis or specialize in different areas. We need more clinically trained, because some of the issues that we deal with in the police service, even in Grenada in a whole, is for people who are clinically trained. You know, there's a different in terms of counseling psychology and clinical psychology. Then you have your forensic psychology, you know, educational psychology. So we need more clinically trained individual who can deal with depression, anxiety, bipolar issues, and so forth. You know, and not just and one who's willing to use technology in advancing the care of these individuals.
Doc, having worked with the Royal Grenada Police Force for a while, I don't know, do you know if there is a component within the training of the new recruits when it comes to the question of psychology?
Yeah, so that's a good question. In fact, up to yesterday, I was there doing training, and I did yesterday Police Psychology 101. And in Police Psychology 101, it's more about helping the officers, the new recruits, to understand themselves. Some of them, the reason for being a police officer, number one, it's very questionable. You know, they come because they want stability, they want to develop their own self, and you know, and most time I'll ask them, how come you come to develop here and then you want to go outside there and have to develop individually? I mean, I think by now you should have already been developed. So, and that's all of the commissioner right now. He actually pushed that psychology be a main component within the training of these officers. So we have I did psychology, police psychology 101 yesterday. Next week I'm going to do 102 and then 103, and it's more or less to help develop police officers to understand themselves and then to understand people, you know, so that we can decrease hostility and so forth. And that's very, very, very important that be part of the training.
Let me ask then, what happens now? Person A trips off. He goes in the backyard and he dig up his old AK-47 from PRA days. He clean it out, he load it up. He block his wife and children inside the house. And he say, nobody enter inside here. And he start to fire shot and so on. Hostage situation, he holding his family hostage. How will our police be able to deal with that? Because there's a psychological aspect of how you're going to deal with an individual like that. Yeah,
wonderful. And this is the thing. We had not a similar incident, but yet still a similar incident in terms of someone with an AK who was shooting the police officer, and the police officer that went up there and one was killed and so forth. And here's the thing. The thing is that if these officers are not trained in identifying psychosis, not only identifying psychosis, but do's and don'ts, because once you're able to diagnose a specific mental disorder, then you know, and then you know exactly what to say and what to do, because there are do's and don'ts based on a particular disorder. You know, and I started doing that training within the police service, because it's very, 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 very important, because sometimes they're running headfirst, they're trained to get into situation, either hold, shoot, whatever, not knowing that there are other ways of actually dealing with some of these mental challenged individuals in our society. So one of the first things they should do in an incident like that is more or less do more talking first instead of running in. And by talking, I mean trying to understand exactly where the person is coming from and kind of identify the type of disorder the person has. And then by doing that, you'll have an idea how to more or less deal with it step by step. You know, running into a fire situation is not always the best situation, despite being trained with firearm as police officers. To run in it's never the best situation how to handle that particular situation. So there is a great need for training in that particular area. You know, I'm happy to thank God that we don't have much of those incidents in Grenada, but with how things are moving right now, and with people being depressed more often than not, eventually we may actually have more than we actually are trained to take care of.
Is it, as you say, depressed and so on? And I want to kind of go on to that one. Each week now, and I'm a guy that follows a lot of people online and different things like that, and we tend to pick up some signs of depression and so on. Explain depression to us.
Yeah.
And what generally goes on. How can we identify somebody that's going through depression? What is depression? How can we identify it? And what are some of the ways that we can, in our own personal sense, as a person who might be depressed, address it? And as friends of persons who are going through it, address it as well.
Okay. Well, first of all, there are 7 different types of depression. But overall, in terms of a definition for depression, depression is a common and serious medical illness that negatively affect how you feel, the way you think, and how you act. You know, fortunately, depression is actually treatable, and that's good news. You know, because depression causes a feeling of sadness and loss of interest in activity that you once enjoyed. It leads to emotional and physical problem and can actually decrease a person's ability to function at work and even at home. And I want to take time off to differentiate between depression and sadness, because most times sadness is actually diagnosed as depression, and it's the difference between the two. Because depression is a straight line. You know, you're depressed for a long period of time, whereas in sadness there's actually wave. You know, and sadness will come on, like for instance, if you lose a loved one, you know, if you have you go through a divorce or issue with your kids and so forth. You know, there is a wave. You know, you're good now, and then okay, you then remember it, then you're sad again.
Can one lead to another?
Yeah, well, what it is that depression is unshakable sadness. So no matter what you do, it's without the right help or the right advice, training, you can shake it off. Sadness, you can actually shake it off. And yes, if sadness continues for a period of time, not treated at all, and the person worries more than ever before, yes, it can actually lead into that. And so that's why I said there's actually 7 types of depression. You know, and it depends on your issue, what you're dealing with, and so forth, and also some of the physical attributes that you're actually portraying.
Okay. How can we I think you went into it a bit just now, how we could identify it, some of the key factors, because you may have a busman. You have a lot of bus drivers that listen to Hard Talk. And you may have a bus driver that's going through some depression right now. You may have one that he has to make the payments to the bank and he can't make the payments because the road ain't as hot as he wanted to be. He may have had an accident before and he has to fix his bus on somebody's vehicle. So there's an economic problem. He might be having problems at home with the wife and the children, and still the outside woman on top of that giving him problems. So how to make them laugh
with other busmen and the environment that they operate in.
Yeah, so there may be several issues. So the bus driver himself may be a bit depressed. We've spoken about the police officers and what they go through and so on, and that's a special case and so. But the bus driver may be going through it. The teachers at the schools, they may be going through it as well, because I know a lot of teachers that basically take on. And when I say take on, they basically go home with the problems of the students that may come and say, I am being abused.
Right.
The student that they may understand is one of the most brilliant students, but due to economic circumstances, drop out of school, or for some other reason drop out of school and so on. And still the other pressures within the system that they may face from time to time. How do we deal with that?
Yeah.
How does the bus driver deal with that? How does the teacher deal with that? How does the nurse, who I kind of categorize closer to the police officers,
than anything else,
because you've created this bond with this patient only to realize half hour later that the patient has passed to the great beyond. Or that you've been taking care of somebody who just happens to be some pumpkin vine family. You know, we close in this place. Or you have known this person for years and you're taking care of this person and the person close there. How do the nurses And then you still have the patients that want to bite you and throw bodily fluids on you and fight with you and box you and accuse you of thief in the thing and so on. And you're vexed because you find the salary again ain't as high as it should be, and nurses in other countries getting more than you. So there's that stress that they go through as well. How do they?
Yeah. And that's why a while ago I took the time off to differentiate between sadness and depression, because for us who are not clinically trained, we would identify most disorder as depressed. See a person with the head down and so forth as depressed. Like for instance, so you spoke about the bus driver and they can't pay the bills and so forth. Although they may not be able to pay the bill, they don't actually have to be stressed. They can actually, they don't have to be depressed. They can actually be stressed, or they can actually have a level of anxiety. Anxiety can look at times as depression, because anxiety is you over worrying, you obsess about getting the money to pay these bills and so forth, and because there are actually 4 major factors that can that contribute towards depression. And for instance, one is your personality. So if you have a type of personality, a melancholic type of personality or type B type of personality, you realize that the slightest thing will make you depressed. Whereas for someone else who is more or less like a choleric or a sanguine in terms of temperament, they are not easily depressed by certain situation. They know that they have to deal with it and so forth. They will be sad about it, they'll be anxious about it, but they know fully well that eventually they will deal with it. But some of the factors you look for in terms of people who are easily to be depressed would be biochemistry factors. You have genetics. That's another major factor. It could actually run in the family. You have personality, people with low self-esteem and who are easily overwhelmed by stress and so forth. They are easily susceptible to depression. You have environmental factors, like you just spoke about a while ago. Continuous exposure to violence, neglect, abuse, and so forth. All these things actually would contribute to depression. But there are others based on their personality type who can actually deal with these things without actually becoming depressed. So that's the thing. So if I have a bus driver who cannot pay his bill on time and whatnot, and he can't take care of his family and whatnot, I wouldn't just assume that he is depressed. I would assume that he's stressed, number one, and he's anxious about the situation. If he doesn't have the type of biochemistry or genetic to be depressed, I believe within time he can actually move way past that. But it's very difficult to answer the question in terms of what they can actually do.
But because I'd like to know what like for instance you feel stressed. For me, if I'm feeling any stress or anything like that, I don't think I get to the stage of depression. I may get to the stage of melancholy, but that's when I go deeper in thought. I find something I like to eat and I eat it. I find something I like to drink and I drink it. I go on the beach and I relax. Put my foot in the sand and make a walk and make a swim and that kind of thing. Or I read a book or look at some comical movie or something like that, and I'm okay.
Yes.
After that, does it just vary from person to person? Is it that you just find things that you like and do it?
Yeah.
Within reason.
Yes. Well, remember one of the things in identifying depression is that you lost interest in the things that you once loved. So
so it's totally opposite.
Yeah. So although you may want to do the things that you like, go to the beach or go in the water or go on a boat and so forth, you realize that you have no interest at all in doing these things, and that's why at times medication is so important. The right type of medication for once you're correctly diagnosed, and also talk therapy where you have one-to-one. There are some new technology right now in the United States, the David Pro system and also the William Fisher system, where it actually helps. These machines they help to increase serotonin in your brain, because lack of serotonin actually brings on depression. So you have these new technology. In fact, we have it in Grenada right now. I had invested and I brought in these machines here in Grenada, and honestly, I believe most time it is better than medication because there's no side effect to these things. But in terms of if you don't have access to medication, or you don't have access to a therapist to actually help you deal with it, because and once again a trained therapist, because we have some therapists that will make a situation worse. Tell you the wrong thing because they don't understand exactly what you're going through. But so beside that, you have some self-help coping mechanism. For instance, there are a number of things that people can help to reduce the symptom of depression. For instance, you have regular exercise. Taking a jog in the morning, and by exercising, it creates a more positive feeling and improved mood. Surprisingly, it will help improve your mood. Getting enough quality sleep. For people who are depressed, they tend to overthink things and worry about things that they can't change. Getting enough sleep. Even if you have to get medication to help you sleep or whatnot, get regular sleep. Eating a healthy diet, because when you're depressed, you tend not to want to eat, and that's why you lose so much weight. You spend more time dealing with things that you cannot change or you cannot deal with. So you leave out eating. So eating is very important, and avoiding alcohol, because that's one of the main things that people do. They run towards the bottle and whatnot, and what happens is that the alcohol gives you a temporary release of the problem. But as soon as you get back up the next morning again, the problem is still there.
More alcohol.
Yes, more alcohol again. And after time, you're not only dealing with the things that brought on depression, but now you're dealing with the
alcohol problem.
Yes, So some of these things that I mentioned a while ago can actually help in decreasing. Exercise. Take your shoes off, go to the beach. Walk on the sand, let the sun massage under your foot. Feel the breeze.
That one I can tell you.
Feel the breeze on your face, and look at the sea. As the sun glitters on the water and it flashes back in your face. The light of it. Just walk, breathe. Do give yourself 3 deep breaths, breathe in, and then let it out slowly. You realize all those things will help to balance off your system. Because God created us in a way that the body of itself can actually heal itself. The body of itself can actually heal itself. When you have a broken leg and so forth, they would put you in cast and so forth. The reason for the cast is just to keep your foot in place. But the body itself is doing the healing. And it's the same way for mental illness. The body can actually heal itself. You go through a serious incident. You have seen something. You have been traumatized. You need time. But if with time and with the right attitude, you can actually move on and become a better person. So depression, anxiety, stress, and all these things, they shouldn't have the final say in your life. With time, you can move on and you can be a better person despite what you have been traumatized to.
Okay. And folks, we are not going to open the phone lines just yet. We have a little bit of discussion. You realize it's a heavy discussion taking place this morning on Hard Talk. And when you see Doc reach in here and watch, I'm so glad that we grab him and we get him to come. And he tell me since last week. And I say, I know somebody to come Wednesday. I know somebody to come Wednesday. And when I see him reach this morning, I say, yes, that is who. So I knew. So it's a heavy discussion. We're not opening the phone lines yet. I see it ringing and so on, but we're not opening the phone lines yet. Because there are 1 or 2 questions I want to ask Doc before we get further in. Devon, you want to go first? Yeah. Go right ahead.
Doc, in your field, right? Let us look, for example, at our students, right? Either primary or secondary. In your view, can psychology or even methods of what you're talking about can be taught within the school system, either during the primary school or the secondary, so you have our young ones getting acquainted with some of these topics and can able to identify some symptoms, not perhaps with them, but perhaps with a fellow student.
Yeah.
They think, is it?
Yeah. And here's the thing. The thing is that we believe that depression, stress, and anxiety is only caters to adults because they have to find a bill, take care of the kids, and so forth. But these kids in school, even from primary school, they have their own issue too, especially a child who genetic from a parent who are already depressed or a child on medication, the biochemistry method of depression and so forth. You have these individuals, they go through their own system. Being bullied in school will cause a certain level of stress, or even a level of anxiety. Don't want to go back to school again, and you're right. I mean, if we can actually target and start training these young people in the school how to effectively deal and handle some of the issues that they're facing, because what happened is that most times these things would go untreated.
Yeah.
And then what happens is that it escalates in adult life, in teenage life, and you know. I remember when I was here for the 3 years, I worked along with the chief magistrate, and on Friday we have to deal with the juveniles, you know. And I came up with a program that I learned from in the States, where you do some scare tactics, and you take these young boys, and I mean they have been involved in a lot of crimes, you know. In fact, you wonder if they're big men already, you know. And because of the age, you know, we would take them to the prison. She would send them for 1 day to prison under the supervision. I had to be there to supervise, and also the prison officers and so forth. And what we will do, we will actually let them get a taste of what it is to be in a prison, a taste of being in a prison. And we ran a program for a couple of months well, and it was very, very effective in that I realized that less, because you had a lot of repeated offenders coming back into her courtroom and so forth. We started having less. Even I realized that one of them did the interview to be a police officer eventually. And you know, and they said it was because of that you know, that actually took place. So in terms of school, elementary school, and being depressed and whatnot, yes, and then when you become a teenager, it continues and then to adulthood and whatnot. So if we can help people to understand it and deal with it from small, I think we'll be very effective, and I think we have less issues as we go along.
Let me ask, should businesses, we have people who are listening at the different banks, financial institutions, Foodland, Food Fair, all the different places. We have folks who listen to the program on a daily basis from these places. Should businesses, as part of the hiring process, do psychological assessment?
Of course. I do a lot of teaching in terms of temperaments, you know, the choleric, sanguine, phlegmatic, melancholic, and so forth. And understanding someone's temperament, and temperament is different from personality, because a personality would actually change 5-8 years, but temperament is what you're born with. It's part of your DNA, you know. So environmental factors wouldn't really change. It will change your personality, but not your temperament. And if you understand someone's temperament, then you can effectively place them in the right job, on the right department in that business, and they'll be more effective. For instance, not everyone could be a customer service individual, talking to people and dealing with them or whatnot.
Tell us about it, brother.
You can have a melancholic individual who's prone to sadness, but who's analytical. They can think, they can put things together, you know, they can put reports together, you know, they will cross their T's and dot their I's and whatnot, make sure that everything is professionally done. You cannot take that person and put that person as a service customer dealing with one-to-one. You will take someone who's more of a sanguine, someone who's more open, you know, who's buoyant, who would look at you and you'll feel like if you've known this person for a long time and you met the person for the very first time, you know. So in psychology, if you can understand people's temperament and also their personality, you can place them, and you can and the job place will be more effective. In fact, you make a lot more money, you know, because people come and they'll buy and they'll participate because they love the service that they actually get in.
So let me tell the businesses now, all you need to contact Doc, so you can give all your little course for when you're hiring, because we find that, and then we complain about customer service. Yeah. And then I think one of the problems we have with customer service is that we have people continually saying, you need to train your front desk people. But if you have the wrong temperament from the beginning,
that's it.
You could train as much as you want. It's not going to affect the ability of the person to interact with the
general
general
smile,
public.
can carry on a conversation. They head down on the ground and they wonder if it's being disrespectful and so forth. It has a lot to do with the person's temperament, you know.
One of the best, and I always mention this young man. There's a young man at Subway in town. And you wonder, Subway? Yeah, Subway, the sandwich place in town. And when you go there, how he interacts with you from the moment you enter until when you leave. You ain't want to leave in a hurry. Because he's just on. He's on. So I hope Mr. Ross listening, that boy need a raise. Wherever he working for, you had to put some money on that. You had to put something on it. That guy, I'm trying to remember his name right now, but you know the guy as well. When you get there, and I think that's one of the reasons a lot of people tend to go to that Subway. I'm not saying the other Subway them don't have good people too, but this guy's temperament,
yes,
from the time you reach, even if you're not feeling 100%, it sort of rubs off on you and you start to feel a little good too.
Sounds like a sangwai.
Yeah, it sort of rubs off on you. So, Mr. Ross, you could add a little 500, 1,000 on the guy's salary. You're doing good. You're doing
You
good.
know, Republic Bank actually did that. They actually hired me, and I went to all of the banks in Grenada, and I did training in terms of temperaments, personality, and so forth. And I remember when last I spoke to the director of human resources and whatnot, he said he saw a change because what this training will also do is help you to accept people, because you see someone who is moody, they want to be by themselves in the corner and just do the work and so forth, and they say, why that person's so standoffish, you know, they're always playing anything more important. But if you understand that that's how the person is, they're not forcing anything, that's how they are truly, then you can appreciate that person more. Or someone who likes to talk more than anything else, you know, they're very boring all the time, you know, and you're looking at that person and say, that person always talking and whatnot. If you understand that based on the person's temperament, they can help it, then you can accept the person more. So, so understanding someone's personality and temperament will help you to accept an individual, and then you have less conflict on the job site.
Indeed. All right. And one of the other questions I wanted to ask before we open the phone lines. Roughly would have been 17 years ago, we had Hurricane Ivan. Would have hit Grenada. I know quite a bit of work was done after Ivan. On the psychological level with the Grenadian people. Do you think as a people we have come full circle psychologically from that event? I tend to think that there's still some lingering effects of Hurricane Ivan, even after all these years on people. I for myself realized that for a period of time after Ivan, it was very easy for me to get angry. Very, very, the slightest thing I could have snapped like that. I got into the stage that you had to do a lot to get me angry. Right? you had to real work for it to get me angry. You might get me upset, but you ain't gonna get me angry. You take a lot of work to get me angry. Have we ever, as a people, healed from that event yet? I think a lot of people still get anxious anytime they hear hurry. They don't even hear the cane yet. They and they don't even hear
Yeah.
and they start to get anxious and so on. Have we healed?
There are some traumas that you will never get over. You will learn to move on, or you learn to block it and you know and progress in life. But there's some traumas that you will never forget, and the slightest thing will actually make you relive that again. For instance, still we know the hurricane was in '94. We're now in 2018 and 2004, and we're now in 2018, and there are still a lot of buildings that
remind us.
Yes, right there. So you're passing and all of a sudden you remember what happened. In fact, I remember last week I was talking to an individual who for no reason just brought it up. You know, maybe because I'm a psychologist, brought it up and you remember he had to run another house and the governor came and almost take his life, cut him in half and so forth. So there's some trauma and he said his whole house, the roof went away and he was just holding on to a beam and so forth. So you drive around and see all these buildings that Ivan destroyed and whatnot. Oh, obviously you'll continue to relive these events, you know. Some people based on their personality type, they can look at it and you know and pay no mind to it. But then you have the rest of the population who, as soon as they see it, they remember how much they lost, how much money they had to put in, and the insurance didn't pay, and you know, important valuables, pictures, and what I lost during this time, you know, and they just relive all these things over and over again. So there are some things.
Yeah, people that literally start to tremble anytime they hear anything like a hurricane. They literally start shaking.
They're reliving
Their nerves start
They're
to
reliving it.
For example, just a couple of weeks ago, we experienced that 7.3 earthquake, and that whole trauma, that whole thing came right back to a number of persons that I spoke to or even witnessed right in the road when that earthquake happened. That whole, you know, that shock, that's, you know, sight, oh God, what will happen, and you know, certain things that you get them saying, it basically reminds them and bring them back to Ivan again, you know, and so it's
some people have even been having false tremors, you know. They're just there and they feel the place shaking again. The place shaking.
That's a joke.
Are they find the place shaking?
and that's how people relive traumas, and that's how we bring it back up again. When there's someone who was raped, you'd realize that all they need to do is smell, get a scent of the person who raped them.
The perfume.
Yeah.
And they remember it, or the color of the person who walked in, and they're trying to move on with their life and get into a relationship, and then the new boyfriend will dress a certain way and put a certain fragrance, and all of a sudden again they're afraid of the individual. They jump back and they don't want to talk. That's reliving it again. So certain traumas you just can't forget. So you just have to help people how to cope with the environmental factors, and in fact some of them it's best they just move for something totally different so that they wouldn't. And a lot of people left Grenada after 2004
and never came back.
No, because they were so traumatized by it. In fact they're still expecting another Ivan to come again, to take place. So even though they were in the States or in the UK, they're still looking that eventually something going to happen again, because they're still living it.
But it's ISIS all day.
Yeah.
It's ISIS all day.
Yeah.
And Ivan was 14 years ago, thank you, Richie. 14 years, not 17. 14. All right, 14. You really remember. Some people who were basically children at the primary school level, secondary school level at that time, one of the things I've realized with them is that even with normal rainfall, they begin to get edgy. If there's normal we're in the wet season right now, rain falls, we have rain. Wind blows, rain and wind come together, and sometimes we have lightning and thunder. But there are people right now, the moment they see a tree move funny when there's a breeze passing, they start to cuss Natma one time. How come Natma ain't tell us about that? But it's normal. It's not like the tree is being rooted out or something. How come Natma ain't tell us anything about that? Or some rain falls and it falls for a half hour. It's like, so when Adma was to tell us about that one, all of a sudden we could have dead already and they didn't tell us nothing. There's still that.
Yeah, well, it's
fear.
It's beyond being traumatized, being paranoid.
I think no, but I believe that we have a lot of people that are paranoid.
Yeah, you're paranoid.
But the moment some breeze or some rain falls over a period of time, it's just like head for the hills.
But it's interesting, Doc, that we, on this particular topic, over 33 years ago, coming up to October 19th, what the incident that we had in Grenada here, have left a lot of people, thousands of people, traumatized, and even up to this day cannot get over some of the things that went on. And so some people are still reliving the actual day itself and the days after, or even days before. And so, I mean, what is your advice for some of these persons?
Before you say anything, Doc, confession is good for the soul, Confession is good for the soul.
I mean, what can you say, to especially a lot of soldiers or even persons who have been on Fort Rupert? What can you say to them to help ease?
There are some methods that you can use that is not very conventional. For instance, someone who suffers from claustrophobia, someone who is afraid of small space and so forth, they said one of the best way to deal with that person is put a person in a small space. Okay. Have him confront the things that is actually keeping them back. Confront it. If you're a spider, picture a wrong spider, it'll actually do two things. Either you get accustomed to it, or you become more afraid of it. But here's the thing, because we're talking about 33 years ago.
34 years and 11 months.
34 years, okay. My grandmother is from Chantimel. Okay. And she was in Chantimel when I hear stories of Chantimel back in the time. Chantimel was a bad place in Grenada. Especially when it comes to steel pan and whatnot. These guys came out. So my grandmother was a fighter. She married my grandfather, who was a Trinidadian, and she used to put a good licking on him. Yeah. She used to put some good licking in him. She was a serious fighter, And I remember one time my granduncle was telling me that he get tired of my grandmother beating my grandfather. So he decided he's gonna go up one day and he's gonna handle her for him. And he get beat up too. he get some serious.
I was about to say that
he get beat up too. So he never went back to the home. And she used to hit coconuts and so forth. And And my mom came under that type of hostility when my grandmother was a punisher. She didn't care. I mean, she would pick up whatever and she will whip and so forth
with whatever hands rest on, yeah.
Whatever. And here what happened. My mom understood how to discipline kids that way, and that's what she did. Growing up, the only place I didn't get licks was on my conscience. I get licks everywhere else, you know, and I mean, we talking about with everything. Go over whip, electrical cord, 2x4, whatever. In fact, high heel shoes and so forth. I remember one time I ran under the bed. I was traumatized. You're talking about what happened to the 3 years ago. You know, I'm going back to the 3 years now. You know, I remember I was traumatized, and I was under the bed there, and she's holding on to my foot and pulling me out of the bed, right? And you know, and the question is, how do you get over that? You know, because you can go to hate your parents, hate your mother. You know, in fact, my mom actually hated her mother. I remember my mom has a cut above her nose. And she said her mother was using condensed milk, and she just, after she finished with it, she just spilled it out and cut it in her face, and she was very abusive, you know. And my mom was abusive as well too. But here's the thing, because I'm educated, I understand why my mom was like that. She was like that because that's what she learned in terms of dealing with it, and that's how I can actually move on from those years of being beaten as a child. And in fact, I remember my mom used to sell nuts. You know, myself and my 3 other brothers, we were in the same school, and a pack of nuts went missing. All of a sudden, in the school, while school's taking place, my mom is outside cursing, and then she walk up the stairs, and she come in and checking in everyone or what bag. We had to open up our bag and whatnot. I was just praying that none of my brothers didn't put anything in my bag, because it would have been brutal that day, you know. And she checking her bag and so forth, you know. Man. And it's not that she didn't love us, you know, because I mean, for years she was a single parent for years. She make sure that we had clothes and food and so forth. But when it came to disciplining, and you know, she did exactly what her mother did, because in her mind that's the best way to deal with kids. Mm-hmm. I was traumatized, and for a period of time I didn't like my mom at all, you know. But as an educated person, as a psychologist, I've come to love my mom, because I realized that's how she showed love, and that's how she understood what it was, you know, because she got that. So I moved on from that. I appreciate her now, simply because I understood the situation. So in terms of going back to the 3 years and so forth, if we can actually educate ourselves and understand why certain things happened, you know, why abuse took place and whatnot, you know, why a parent was so abusive to you, if we can understand and we can actually forgive, and forgiveness is the key in terms of moving on, then we realize that we would forget the things in the past and venture to the things that's before us, you know. So that's how I have learned to deal with trauma. I have learned to forgive, understand why this person did what they did, forgive them, and actually move on. My mom and I, we have a great relationship until she decided, you know what, she remembered that she used to beat us and she wanted to do the same thing again. And then at that time I jumped on a plane and I gone back to the States.
Just another follow-up, to thing. Now, there are a lot of persons up to this day, since after that particular event in October, right, that they are still being looked at. And I'm not talking just of, for example, the 17 who spent most of the time in prison, but ordinary soldiers, persons who are involved in the revolution. They still looked at as persons that are not, I should say, like welcome within, or you know, they look at people differently, based on the history. I mean, how it's difficult for some people to handle it. How, I mean, what's your advice?
You know, I have actually dealt with some of those ex-soldiers. During the time I have been here, they came looking for help in terms of, because one of the biggest issue they had was in terms of relationship. You know, they had an individual who used to come to the prison and see them and help them and so forth. And when they were released, they thought that they owe those individuals their loyalty by marrying them. And in space of no time, it fell through. I mean, you know, you had a connection because there was no one else. But when you came out and everyone, the environment with everyone is seeing more and whatnot, and so I was trying more or less. My job at that time was to teach the wife, why they're going through what they're going through right now, because they didn't understand why the person is reacting like that, So these individuals, they want to be accepted in society, but it's difficult. Number one, is difficult simply because you find that society is not very forgiving. Not very forgiving. Not only not forgiving, but society would always remind you that you did this and did that and the other. So when you're actually trying to forget it, they'll remind you. And Grenadians have a way of looking at you. They won't say anything. When they look at you, you know what they're thinking. You know what they're thinking.
Definitely.
And listen, you have to develop the kind of characteristic where you can actually move your eyes off of these, because what I'm happy about is that everyone in Grenada is not the same. You have people who are supportive, right? Those who want to more or less remember your closet and your grave. You want to dig up your grave and find old things about you and whatnot. But you find those who are progressive, those who are thinking. And I think these individuals, what they need to do, they need to move past these small-minded individuals and more or less deal with people who are more positive, who can actually help them to grow and actually forget the things in the past. It's not something that is easily done because of society and because Grenada is so small. For instance, if you go to Brooklyn, where you have over 9 million people documented, and you have another 11 million undocumented, you realize that it's easy for you to just move past our. But Grenada with 106,000 people, it's difficult, to hide without seeing it. So most of the time, change of environment
It's key.
So that's
key.
That's why we see a lot of people leaving the island and trying to get into the US or the UK or because lately we've seen a lot of people heading to the UK because it's not easy to get a visa to go into the US. At least it wasn't that easy, but a little easier now.
It was now with Trump.
Yeah. Well, for those that had one already, it's easier now to the process, not to get it, but the process.
Okay.
Is easier now because you don't have to fly to Barbados again. Difficult to get into Canada, and so a lot of people are heading over to the UK and not coming back.
Yeah.
Not coming back. I know personally, off the top of my head, I could think of at least 6 right now that I know, young people that have gone within the last couple of years and basically overstayed their time. They're not coming back.
Yeah. And there's a reason for it. The change of environment for a lot of people is very, very important, especially when you have a society where it's easy to remember or to remind you what you did or your past and so forth. In fact, I believe a lot of those criminals who right now, if they come out of prison, they can actually get a visa to leave Grenada. They're gone in the morning, because at times we can be very hard on people and unforgiving, and that will cause the anxiety in society. I mean, you put in stress on me, eventually what's going to happen? I'm going to be a volcano, I'm going to erupt, and then you have to deal with another situation again. So I think the best thing is to change your environment. If you get a chance to move on. Those who can't move on, probably they live in a different district within Grenada or whatnot. I mean, it's going to be hard still because Grenada is small, And Sheldon, that's the sad thing about it, living in Grenada, in that scarcity is common. The place is small. Everyone will know everyone. So no matter where you go in Grenada, somebody will identify you, and that's how difficult it is. And that's why psychology is so important in an environment like this, where everybody is so I mean,
close knit.
Yeah, yes. On Monday I had my motorbike and I went to fix my seat on it, and a young lady walked into the shop, and I know her face from somewhere, and she said, "You Dr. Fleming?" I said, "Yes." You see, remember you interviewed me for a job, and so forth. Yeah. And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Remember, I told them wasn't to hire you because of so and so and so and so." She said, "Yeah, I remember. See, the personality wasn't right for that job and whatnot." I said that I know they hired you, but you last only 1 week because they didn't follow my advice, And here it is that there's a young lady who I recommended not to be hired. I'm meeting her again. And then I'll meet somebody else again who probably I probably would have phoned against and so forth. And I had to work with them, or probably they might have to make a decision on me at one time. So Grenada is a very difficult place when it comes to things like that. You know, it is a tight-knit place, you know, so if it is that you're in a situation where you just can't survive in the environment anymore because of your past, and you get up and you need to move on, I would advise you to do that, move on.
And folks, the phone number 440-7377. Before we forget, let's open the phone lines. 440-7377
and 347-329-3101.
Yes, indeed. That's for those of you overseas, so all you could call two. All right. So, Doc, you have a practice here in Grenada. You also have one in the U.S. You have a practice here in Grenada, one in the U.S.
Yes, actually,
we could give the people the number online so that they could.
Well, actually, I retired 2 years ago.
You what?
I retired 2 years ago.
But you're a young fella.
But here's the thing. The thing is that in my estimation, this is my estimation, 75% of people in New York crazy.
Okay.
So I was able to do
I
well.
at 85 by now. Yeah,
I was able to do well in Grenada fast because we had so many mad people in Grenada. So I could retire at a young age.
In New York,
in New York.
Yeah, not Grenada.
Yeah.
In New York.
Yeah. Well, when I come to Grenada, I mean, and the thing about it, I come to Grenada for a month, I leave, I come back for another month again and whatnot, you know. But in terms of retirement in the US, I'm happy. You know, in fact, I'm not in New York anymore. I'm now in Georgia. It's a combination between New York and Grenada. You know, more peaceful and so forth. You know, so I'm enjoying my youth retirement.
All right. So, folks, you can call in if you have a question for Dr. Fleming. He's what's the director of psychology? You're a clinical psychologist? Clinical psychologist, yeah. So you can call in 440-7377. That's 440-7377. And already the phone line is on.
Good morning and welcome.
Yes, morning.
Good morning, my friend.
Yes, morning. Go right ahead, call.
Morning, Sheldon. Morning to the doctor and morning to
Devon.
The other guy, the Romain guy. Doc, I listened to your program from start to now.
Yes.
But I haven't heard you mention about the Creator. You talk about observing creation and walking on the beach, and that will alleviate the stress, but I haven't heard anything as praying to the Creator and recognizing the supreme force that exists and that controls us, you know, because I think every time we deviate from this part of the Creator, I think we end up in a lot of problems. Disobedience to the Creator creates problems on earth for most of the human beings.
Yes.
Disbelief in the Creator, well, this is the major big problem that we face right now. In terms of the schools, in terms of the children, in terms of the parents, you know. And this is where we end up in that deep psychological problem. Because Almighty Allah says in the Quran, O mankind, worship your guiding Lord so that you may ward off evil. You will be able to get rid of evil because we are surrounded by evil. And the evil force will easily captivate us if we discard the Almighty Creator and turn to the creation. You know, that's my contribution there.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. I pastored longer than I have been a psychologist. My first degree is actually in theology, and what I want people to understand is that deciding to pray, all of a sudden because you're going through issue, you know, it's not a pill that you take. You know, all of a sudden you take a pill and you become holy and things will change and whatnot. Beyond the spiritual realm of dealing with things and being in contact with God, there's a mental situation that you need to access mental help as well. In fact, there was a paranoia that's called religious paranoia, where people are so attached to church and to the pastor and whatnot that they can't talk about anything else or do anything else about church, reading the Bible and whatnot. And I have treated so many of them who actually became who were diagnosed with psychosis because of the religious factor of it. What I'm saying is how God created us. God created us uniquely. We have the spiritual element, we have the mental element, we have the social element, and we have individuals who are trained in various areas. Not everything it can just be say, okay, you know what, let's pray about it and it's done. Praying is not a pill you take and it takes care of the situation. I think God have endowed individuals with special skills to help people move from one stage to the other. And that's and so if you want to pray for God to send more people to help, but professional skills are needed in dealing with a lot of this situation. I have known people who have been praying for years and they're still praying. They still have the same situation because they're not seeking help. God provides way out for us, but we have to accept it and move towards those things.
Is it a situation within Grenada and the Caribbean at large? We are pretty religious people when we're ready. We are pretty religious people. That sometimes we misdiagnose.
All the time.
You have people that basically say somebody get this person a spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Or somebody go in the Obia house for this person. When it's purely a psychological issue.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with the spiritual realm, but totally to do with either chemical, because sometimes we have situations where you have guys that sort of trip off and they say they give them a bad weed to smoke here. They say they give them a black weed. They put other substances into the marijuana. They give it to the guys, and the guys go into some sort of mental state that's difficult to come back from, or them never come back from it, that they've gone to. Or other psychological issues that people may be going through, and somebody say, well, somebody spoiled my child. Somebody give them something. They give them a hot money. These kind of things. What is the situation with that? And
that's a very important point. I mean, I grew up in Trinidad and in the United States, and in terms of acceptance of mental health, it's easier in the United States. Coming to Grenada, building a house in Grenada and living in Grenada, it was tough in terms of my feel, simply because every time I had to treat someone, the person who's bringing them, when I asked them a question about it, they would say it's some kind of demonic force on the individual, And I had to do training in teaching them that there's a difference between psychosis and religious issues, or demon possession and so forth. And one particular case I remember I dealt with here in Grenada, and the uncle came and the uncle said, she touched something and whatnot. And I said, listen, let's give me a chance, because he brought up for me to pray at that time. I said, let's give me a chance. Let me work with this individual. And we're consulting with the medical doctor and whatnot. We changed her medication. She was getting therapy, put on a machine and so forth. And in 3 months' time, she came full circle. In fact, she's doing so well even now after all that time. And because it wasn't a religious, it had nothing to do with the demon possession or put something on you, But in Grenada, somehow we believe that it's nicer to say that person has some kind of spiritual problem than a mental problem. We are afraid of this problem. One time I told a parent that their child is autistic, and she was saying, no, he's not, and so forth, but it was so glaring as soon as the boy walked into my office that he's autistic. All the features of it, So when it comes to mental health, don't say anything that I have this and I have that and whatnot. Say it's a spiritual problem, so I can carry it down to the country and be pray about the situation and put an end to it. And that is sad, though. It is sad.
Because we often see that happening, and you mentioned autism, and I think a lot of the general population out here doesn't understand autism.
No, they don't.
They don't know what it is.
No.
No. A call was coming through a while ago, but they'll call back. Could you give us a bit on autism? Because I know some autistic persons, their IQ is actually a lot higher than other individuals.
Yeah, it depends on the type.
But it's how they can operate. It might be to one thing specifically.
Well, autism falls under the scale of pervasive developmental disorder, PDD. Right. So you have autism, you have Asperger's, William Jr., you have all these other things that will fall under pervasive developmental disorder. So autism is just one form of PDD. Most folks here with a very high IQ and whatnot, their problem is more Asperger's, because Asperger's causes you to be socially delayed. Low self-esteem. You can't talk to new people and you can't start conversation and so forth. So the only spectrum or the only adaptive functioning that you lack is your social skills. But you're good in terms of cleaning your house, going to school and taking care of yourself. But socially you're delayed. Autism, however, it interferes with all the adaptive functioning, communication, receptive written skills. It interferes with one ability to do certain things at home, be sociable, and how coping mechanism and so forth, especially if it's severe or profound. Yet still, these individuals can actually, they're genius in certain things, some of mathematics and seeing certain things and what's in their place,
Could work it out in seconds without a calculator, a
Yes.
book, anything.
Yeah.
They can work it out in seconds. But they can't tie the shoelace.
But they can't tie the shoelace. They can't hold a conversation. They can't help cook and whatnot. They
can't do that.
They can't. Whereas some can because of the level of autism. Others who are severe, moderate, severe, and profound, they can actually. And several of them were actually in school, high school. I don't know how they probably were socially promoted here in school, but they just couldn't function, and they were being teased and bullied in school. And that's why they end up coming to parents and couldn't take it anymore. I brought them to see me, and I said, he's autistic, and then they start looking into it and getting more information on it or whatnot. So there's a whole lot of kids right now in school that they have these type of pervasive, and that disorder is different from that of psychosis, because it's a pervasive disorder, and no one know exactly. They can't even understand the schoolwork and whatnot, and just dear and just going through this kind of tension within the school, And so I wish if teachers can actually identify some of those kids and them, and if you can find a way to have them assess, it's going to go a long way in helping them.
4407-377 and
347-329-3101.
I realize we missed a call on the overseas line. Caller, you can call back.
Definitely.
Doc, bipolarism or bipolar, I don't know the proper term for it, if it's bipolarism, whatever it is. Oftentimes you hear, we even have a calypso bipolar, we have a soca bipolar and all. But to me, that's nothing. Both bipolar and schizophrenia. Are they common issues that you find here in Grenada? What are they, first of all? Are they common here in Grenada, and should we be seriously concerned about them?
Yeah. Well, bipolar is a mood disorder. So it's different from someone who's schizo and so forth, because schizo is more of a thinking disorder, and bipolar is a mood disorder in terms of the. And if you have someone who's carrying both diagnoses of being bipolar and being schizo at the same time, it's more of a schizoaffective disorder, and you have a lot of that in Grenada. People can actually move from one to the next, and then they just depressed for no reason at all. In fact, over the years, they have changed. You have a lot of the terms have changed. For instance, at one time we used to call it manic depression. We reached to that stage, to bipolar. So, but now we no longer use the word manic depression. We just use the word bipolar 1, bipolar 2, and we add it based on the type of symptoms that you're actually displaying. It's added onto it. In terms of if you're very flighty, or if you are saddened all the time, or move from one to the next. In terms of schizophrenia, it is more or less of a thinking. And one of the biggest traits of being schizo is that you think more highly of yourself, more important of yourself. So you walk into a room and you say, listen, I'm the Prime Minister.
You don't know who I is.
Yeah, or you're hearing certain things in the back of your head telling you to go ahead and do this. Don't let that person tell you that you're not this person. You're this person. And here it is, you'll be talking to someone and you're not aware that they have this disorder. And
so the person assumes the role of the Prime Minister. They come to you and they say, I am Prime Minister.
And the truth about it is, in all honesty, they are. That's how they believe. They're not putting on a show at all. They believe that to the TN. And I remember I did some training with the police service in terms of that, of understanding certain disorder. For instance, someone who's hallucinating, who's hearing voices and so forth. Let's imagine they're talking to you, and all of a sudden in the back of your head, someone else is talking to you. So whilst you're talking here, you listen to another voice. It becomes very confusing. So every time I'll turn back and I'll say, hold on, let me finish my conversation here. And you stand on there and say, but this person mad, why this person behaving like that? And the truth about it is the person's actually hearing a voice. They're actually seeing certain things. You're not seeing it, you're not hearing it, but they're actually living it. So that's why their action will be like that, So if we can understand, listen, it's not a show. These people are not doing it because they want to do it. They're actually hearing voices, they're actually seeing things, and then there'll be a greater need to help this individual.
But when that happens, people just say, somebody do them. But we'll get back to that one. We'll get back to that one. We have a caller online.
Good morning and welcome. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello?
Yes, caller, you're live.
Okay, yes, good morning to you, honorable gentlemen. I realize your main topic this morning was sexual abuse and depression. My insignificant comment this morning is I just want to say, persons, male and female, working with institutions like schools, like children's hospital, like children's Sabbath school, children's Sunday school, and any area where children are involved. I believe those persons should first go through a background check before our kids are placed in their care. And with the rapists, I believe someone did not just wake up this morning and become a serial rapist. I think that person was showing signs, very small signs, and because it was not treated, it became cultivated and turned out into full-blown rapists. I believe if there is something we may talk about causes. For example, when we look, and this morning I'm not even sure if I should mention the word carnival, because when you look at certain issues, you touch the backbone of certain persons. But let me say, certain programs we have in, I believe with our kids, when we put our kids, naked and doing all sort of stuff, I believe we should teach them to be or cultivated or creative, right? For example, if we dress our kids to go out into certain program out there, I think they could dress in a creative way. But when we dress them in a certain way, I believe it arose the sexual passion, especially among men. What I'm trying to say, we all should be responsible citizens. And if we do the right thing with our kids, they will grow up to be responsible persons. The male and female, they're going to respect each other. So, gentlemen, I can go on, but I know so many persons wanted to say something. Another thing again is, I like to see our churches. I'm not knocking churches because I'm from a church too. If our churches can have maybe this yearly workshop to deal on those topics so that we can go back out and teach and to train our schools and churches and our community how to behave and how to respect each other.
All right. Thank
you
very much, caller.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yes, indeed. Yeah, so that caller raising some of the issues that we did address before, that is identification of individuals with the what do you say, proclivity? with the the underlying, how you could put it, with the ability, to become, to identify them early. So the different stages, and that was discussed. We did discuss various aspects of that.
Yes.
440-7377. Feel free to call.
347-329-3101. Give us a call. And good morning to all of you on the line, especially on the live. Special good morning.
I'm getting a message here on WhatsApp from a good friend of mine. She's asking if it's normal for children to have imaginary friends.
Yes. Very, very much so. What's not normal is when they reach a certain age and they still have those friends, and then it becomes a problem. Yeah, but it's normal.
But what's the age?
What is that cutoff point, though?
Yeah, by 7, 8, you realize that tends to go into the past.
But if it continues after that, then you have a problem.
Then you need.
Here we just say the scene spirit.
You need help. Yeah.
Here we just say the scene spirit. I mean, we have to be clear on this. Because a lot of the things we generally categorize, and I think it's probably coming up during slavery and all these things during colonial times. Psychologists were not available to the average Grenadian. They were not available to the average West Indian. So we had to find a way to deal with it. So you say this person thing, okay, we want to blow some smoke on them, we go light a 2 incense, we go roll some garlic and thing, and we go say a prayer and open the book to a certain psalm and read, and we will get rid of it. It gon' go. Yeah. So that is how hey, me and no I'm talking about it. I just call in thing. I don't know, I just say a thing. I just say a thing. But that's what we used to do.
Rather that's interesting that you said that, because when I was in high school, because of my past with my mom and licks and so forth, I used to take it off on other students in school. I used to fight a lot in school, a lot at school, and I get suspended and so forth. And I remember one time I had a back and forth with a teacher who embarrassed me, and I decided, you know what, I ain't taking embarrassment. And he and I began to exchange hand. I'm not going to say who get most hand, you know. And because I'm not saying it, maybe because I got the most of the hand in that day. And I remember the principal came and he held me and so forth, and he said, you know, before you can come back to the school, you actually have to see a psychologist. It had none back then, none at all. So so that was the end of my, because I couldn't find anything to actually come back to school. So it's still a new field. It's still growing, and the science is coming up right now. But back then, everything was demon possession.
They didn't bring you back, Pastor?
Eh?
Say, pray on the boy, put him on the morning ground. He must go. Beat him with a cocaine broom.
Now, with the cocaine broom, my mother was the pastor at that time, so she used that.
Yeah, they used to say if they beat you with the cocaine broom, they could beat the spirit out of you.
And the flex broom.
Yeah, well, cocaine broom is flex broom. Same thing. Yeah. You ever hear what cocaine?
But that's it hard enough.
What's up, cocaine? You never get serious about your cocaine broom on your cash, mate. Or you back the middle of your back. You're feeling it for the whole day. But yes, indeed, folks, 4407377, 4407377. And we have to get to the stage, it's 2018, we have to get to the stage that we start understanding the difference between demonic possession and mental issues. Because to me, some of the people who even saying is demonic possession, they have mental issues as well, some of them. Some of them have mental issues that need to be addressed as well.
But there are clear lines in knowing if something is demonic or if it's mental. For instance,
we're not saying it doesn't exist. We're saying that there are clear lines.
Yeah. For instance, most cases with the demonic possession, you look for two main features. Number one, increase in strength, and the change in the voice. You know, someone who is just sitting down and you know, they're saddened, and you know, they don't want to do anything and whatnot. You know, it should be difficult to just jump to demon possession, because why be a demon possessed and they're sitting down and lying down? You know, obviously there's some mannerism or feature of demon possession that actually take place, especially with things that we're actually accustomed to. So there are clear lines between the two. You know, if someone is not erratic to the point of addiction, because listen, I have seen and dealt with demon possession before. I remember one time I just got my doctorate, and I was working for the city in New York, and they sent me to this facility with people with mental intelligence and so forth, autistic and whatnot. And as I came into the room, I was in charge of that site as the psychologist. I saw about 4 people in this room with this girl, and they were trying to hold her down in the room, you know, and you know, now coming out of school and, you know, proud of myself and, you know, want to show powers and so forth. I said,
big doctor.
Yeah, I said, don't hold her like that. Don't hold her like that. Let her go. In fact, let her go and come out of the room. I'll deal with the situation. And as I said that, I heard the door behind me close. Click. The door closed. So as I turn around now to look at why they closed the door, I heard a slap. And I remember I said I heard, I didn't say I feel, I heard a slap. And as I'm thinking about who does get slapped, I remember I felt the burn again because a second one came. And all of a sudden I found myself, and this girl was a small, skinny girl, a bony girl. All I remember that I had to be fighting for my life with this person. I mean, I wasn't small. She's smaller than me. And I couldn't handle the young lady at all. I couldn't hold the young lady. She was flipping me in the room and whatnot. And to the point where the big psychologist, who told the people come out of the room, had to knock on the door and beg them to come back in the room. That was my introduction. That was my introduction to that. So I was clear that time that there was more than just psychosis with this young lady. She was too strong. Yeah. I mean, she flipped me in the ground, put me in the wall, and while I'm trying to get my composure, because you can't hold them or squeeze them or hurt them in those facilities. There's a specific way you hold them from behind and whatnot. So I'm trying, it's called skip. So I'm trying to get the skip into place, to hold her hand and whatnot. While I'm trying to do that, she's flipping me around in the room and slamming me against the wall, you know, and I'm crying for help and knocking on the door, and these staff, you know, they took the time to come back in the room to help me out, you know. They
were saying, yeah, man,
take that.
Me, it's okay. I could deal with the You know, once I hear that, I ain't going close. You understand? I cool. I good. Yes. So, folks, yeah, so 440-7377, you may have a question for the doctor. And I think one of our listeners online in the U.S. was asking about if you have any recommendations for a person who may be suffering from psychological issues, or who they may think is suffering from psychological issues and so on. Who can, if you have a recommendation, who they can see in the New York area?
In New York?
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, several individuals who actually worked with me in a clinic. One is a Grenadian by the name of John McQueen. He is clinically trained. He's more in the social aspect. If I can actually give a number, he's very, very good, especially when it comes to young kids. Mm-hmm. He has had a lot of success.
John McQueen, as long as I St. David's man.
Yeah, he's from Grenada, and he has a clinic as well. Let me see if I can get a number that they can actually.
Mm-hmm. And if you can't find one now, you can always give us some. We'll put it out over a period of time so that folks in New York and so could know.
Okay, yeah.
We have another question for you as well from one of our listeners in the Noise Radio chat room. They're asking if it is possible to make a diagnosis of a person being bipolar in one session with a person, especially when that person is going through major depression.
Yes. Number one, because the escalation of the depression. That's how you determine what it is. So yes. But once again, you have to be clinically trained to understand and to see the difference between the two. But yes, you can.
Yes, indeed. 440-7377, and of course the overseas number of
347-329-3101.
And we have a call on the overseas line. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello. Good morning. Hello. Okay, that person seems to not be listening on the phone line. Folks, remember, when you're calling, listen to us on the phone line, not on the radio. There would be a significant delay, especially if you're outside of the state of Grenada. There'd be a seriously long delay. So you need to speak to us on the phone line. Okay, maybe the first time that you're calling, we know the issue is very, very interesting. So maybe the first time you're calling. Good morning, Felix. I hope you and the rest of the family are okay. Hope everyone is all well and okay. Yeah. Pastor, leave me alone. Pastor interfering with me this morning. Pastor, leave me alone. And Devon has just posted a number for Dr. John McQueen online. And let me just give it on air for those. Well, give it on air for those who may be listening on air.
Yeah, I'm Dr. John McQueen. I'm situated in New York, right? Or it's Brooklyn, eh?
Brooklyn.
Yeah, Brooklyn, New York. His number is 718-940-8598. Okay?
Right.
So those of you out there listening to us, and you know of someone who may, in need of help, or maybe you that's somebody that is recommended.
But sometimes you don't know you need help.
And that's the truth.
Well, how does one recognize, come to the understanding that, I really need some help?
Yeah, when we start doing things out of the ordinary, all of a sudden we become very obsessed with things. We getting up earlier and just we had to fix everything in place, or we start to worry about things extremely. Things that are out of the ordinary that we are not accustomed doing. And most of the times, even though it be excessive from what we are accustomed to, we still wouldn't recognize it. Sometimes we'll be the last person to see certain things about ourselves. So most times someone from the outside will tell you, I'm seeing a change in you and whatnot. And most times we say, nah, you don't see anything. You just want to make trouble. But if someone is telling you there are issues, see certain things, just take some time off and check it and see if there's any truth to it.
Okay. One listener is asking if you can be affected psychologically if you work around certain groups of people. There's a girl who works with children, and she's now behaving as a child in many aspects. Find that one to be weird.
Yeah. Is she working along children?
Yes, she's working around children, and she's starting to act as children. Yeah, give me Nazim. Don't fret to give me. Let me get Doc. You feel you wouldn't have it. No, sorry, we found it.
After 3 years.
After 3 years, yeah. We enjoy it. That should tell you that your son, we doesn't throw anything here.
Wow. That's interesting.
And it's in the same condition, you leave it.
Yeah.
Yes.
It looks newer, actually.
Yeah, so does it affect if you're working like you're working around children, you start to act as children, you're working around elder people, you start to act as elder people. Does that really happen?
Yes, it could happen.
Transference?
It could actually happen. Yeah, but it happens more with people with who are easily who are adaptable to certain type of changes. For instance, someone who's autistic, they can actually adapt easily. Because you have a lot of individuals who are functioning okay and they have certain meet certain criteria for autism and so forth. They can actually adapt and change their behavior and so forth. In fact, my son, our kids are like that sometimes. They tend to act grown up, follow us, our own mannerism and so forth. My son will do the exact same thing. Follow my mannerism in terms of asking questions, in terms of you want to dress, and when I come home, I want nothing, I want to take my clothes off. He will start doing the same thing and whatnot. So it's easy at a certain age, but for an adult to actually follow a child, I would look into some other form of
possible autism,
this disturbance for that happening. There had to be a reason for that. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. 440-7377. We just have a few minutes. We may be able to take one or two more calls. And yes, Oli won't get Doc again. When he on island, he going to give us a little chance. Once he have enough time, we're going to get him in studio again to have a discussion on some of these issues. So a person who they may be able to assimilate. That's what I say. What about the person who, I mean, you're in the U.S. right now, but you don't sound U.S. In fact, I could still hear a hint of Trinidadian accent on you.
Yeah, I have a strong Trinidad accent because...
you can't lose it?
No,
you don't lose your accent?
I don't want to. I don't want to be a freshwater Yankee. I don't want to.
But we have some people that didn't spend 2 months in...
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Labor Day.
Yeah.
Labor Day and come back.
They come back down come back down here and yanking shred. Hey, yo, what's up? You cool, man?
Yeah.
I mean, my father lived in Trinidad for close to 30 years and left Carriacou when he was under the age of 10 and still spoke like if he was in Carriacou. I mean, so,
yeah.
I mean, it's difficult. I know some people assimilate.
Yeah, and part of the reason for that is that, number one, especially those who are coming back after a short space of time and they would have changed the accent and whatnot, they want people to look at them differently. I'm more international. I have traveled. I went out there and so forth. And I also want people to know that they have the ability to travel. So instead of just bringing up talk that, I spent some time in the U.S., I can go back there anytime I want, it's easy just to talk like it.
But that can be a cry for help too,
Actually, it's a cry to say that I'm showing off that I'm able to do. Yeah. But then you have those who are more or less, they for them it's nothing to do. I'm traveling and whatnot, so they are who they are. I mean, I was born here and so forth. This is my accent. I love my accent. There's no show at all. But
I am who I am.
Yeah, people who can easily change their accent in 2 weeks and whatnot. They have more going on, more issues that not.
So someone is asking here, Doc. I find when I was younger, I had more patience, but now I got older. I find I got more aggressive.
Yeah, personality shift. She would have gone through certain things in life. Or be around aggressive people, and Newton law is for every action there is an equal reaction. You hit me hard, and then same force you hit this wall with, the same force will come back at you. So what happens is that you tend to become like the environment that you're in. If the environment is hostile, you become hostile. If the environment is calm, you become. And after many years of being in a hostile environment or aggressive environment, you yourself will become aggressive. Your personality would change. Even how you talk and whatnot, especially, you'll marry someone who's very quiet and calm, and then there's a lot of issues in the relationship, in the marriage, and they always argument. You realize now, instead of being calm in handling the situation, she becomes aggressive, and every time there's a discussion, she will raise her voice and so forth because she's adapting to the changes that took place over a period of time. So yes, environmental factors would actually cause an individual to be aggressive after a while, you know.
Okay. All right, folks, we're getting close to the end of today's program, and I'd like to offer Doc the opportunity. There may be businesses out there that have been listening to this discussion, and they may finally realize, look, in the hiring process, probably there's a module that I need to put in there. Certain questions that I need to ask, and according to how they're asked, I would know whether or not to hire this person for position A or position B, or whether to hire them at all.
Right.
How do businesses contact you if they would like you to do that process, be part of either the committee that interviews people, or to be help them set up that mechanism so that even if you're not on island, they would be able to interview a person? Right. How do they get in contact with you?
Yeah, my local number is 533-7087, 533-7087. Even though I'm not on island, the number is still working. If you want the broad number, it will be 718-288-4161, 718-288-4161.
I feel I gotta write down two of them afterwards and just put it up.
Call me then anytime, especially when I'm in the States. I have more free time. When I'm in Grenada, I'm always on the go because so call me anytime.
Doc, and one more thing, I would like to ask the Grenada Olympic Association. In preparation of our athletes, and we're heading to World Championships next year. We have people like Kurt Felix, Lyndon Victor, Kirani James, Braylon Taplin, Anderson Felix, and the list goes on. Anderson Peters, Markham Felix. The list goes on. When we're preparing our athletes, I'd like them to take into consideration the psychological aspect of preparation. I'd like them to make sure that they get in contact with you.
Yes.
We have a nice building. You all have a nice building down in the south now. We want to work on outside of the physical structure of the organization, but the psychological preparation of our athletes as they go out to represent. Because I think that's a major component.
Sports psychology
of the sports. You've done sports psychology itself as well. As a separate area.
Well, when I did my doctorate, you would have done touching all the area, all the constitutional and clinical part. You would have touched on marriage and touched on individual and even in terms of lesbianism and so forth. You know, family issues. And you also touch on sports and education part as aspect of it. So the adrenaline aspect of sports psychology is very important to get to psych an individual up to win something. And it's all about psyching an individual up, you know, increasing that adrenaline, you know, so that they'll go out and perform at their peak, you know, make them believe that no one else is better than them, you know, and that's important in competition.
Because we've seen that with individuals, like, for instance, if I want to go way back, I could go back with Muhammad Ali. I am going to win, and I'm going to knock him out in this round. And that psychological warfare and that attitude. Coming up the road to our Jamaican counterpart there, Usain Bolt, who just went out there and with you know, he's just basically like how Muhammad used to say, "I'm so pretty," and you'd have Usain basically, and just psychologically he would just destroy everybody else. Even before he got into the starting blocks, he would destroy everyone else psychologically. Just the way he looked, just the way he acted, and everything. And to some extent, I think we need to prime our athletes to be able to, one, not necessarily act in the same way and do the same thing, but to be able to contend with it and make sure that it has no serious effect on them as athletes when they're going out there.
Yeah, in fact, touching from the Bible itself, you say, as a man thinketh, so is he. So a lot of before we can actually perform well and whatnot, it starts from within the brain, you know. And if you can tap into that, you realize that you do better than you expected to.
No GBSS, so you can't get him. No. Anglican High School and GBSS, 17 bullets, behave. No. Don't ask. All right? No, we're not sending them there. No. All right? All right. So quite a few folks are asking for Doc's number and so on. We're going to post it in the chat, and then we're going to post it onto the Hard Talk Facebook page as well. But Doc, just one more time, get your pen and your paper and thing. We give you 2 minutes. Let me just give one announcement before we get Doc to give the number, and then we close off today's program. Good morning to you, Senator the Honorable Winston Garraway. And he says to make sure and tell you good morning. Yeah, he asked me why I know about that spiritual thing. He wants to know why I know. So he find I know too much. So, okay. So they're actually getting ready for that Tsunami Ready project in St. Patrick. And that's to be held tomorrow at the Anglican Schoolyard from 2:30 p.m. So they're getting ready for that as well. All right. So the tsunami, that's NADMA. They're having that Tsunami Ready project in St. Patrick. I think St. Patrick is the first parish that is tsunami ready, as nice. Perfectly tsunami ready. So that the Anglican Schoolyard for 2:30 tomorrow, they'll be having that official ceremony. So a lot of things taking place. You had the sexual crimes unit of the police force launched today, the tsunami unit information coming out tomorrow. And saying all of this to get time to get your pen and paper ready to take Doc number. So, Doc, give us the numbers again. The local number is
533-7087.
Right, and the overseas?
Overseas 718-288-4161.
All right. So for those of you locally, 533-7087, and for those of you overseas, 718-288-4161. Folks, that's all the time we have for Hard Talk today. Doc, any closing words?
Yes. I just want to say that we live in Grenada is a very beautiful country, and despite having hardship and depressive situation, you know, if we can at times just find solace and get back into nature and into sea and whatnot, you realize that even without all these other elements of psychology and medication and whatnot, that you can actually quiet your soul and heal yourself. You know, sometimes it's good to use nature to help. You know, so not all the time you have to run to the doctors and so forth. You know. You can get back to nature, you realize you're going to do very well. And for those of you who are suffering from serious ailment, anxiety, and so forth, just take time off to breathe. Breathe heavily, you know, take some deep breath in, fill up your lungs, and let it out slowly. Just balance off yourself, and you realize that too will also help. Positive thinking is very important. Think positive. Even when things are not looking bad, think positive. And you realize that because you're thinking positive, it will be a reflection of you, and you'll get over any hurdle that will come in your way.
I don't think we could say anything outside of that except, folks, thanks for listening. Those of you that called, those of you that tried to call, those of you that are online, the couple hundred of you, and those of you that are listening via radio, via the various radio stations. Yes, Senator Garraway, we know you're in St. Patrick listening. I mean, the signal kicking smoke. Yeah, so we like to say a very special good afternoon now to each and every one of you, and thank you for listening. And whatever you say and do it safe and secure. You want to be speaking to and with you, and
not about you.
Love each and every one of you. And let me give Brian and them the steel pan because short man, organize me. I come in. All right, let's give Brian them the steel pan before we go. Nice, beautiful.
On Thursday, September 27th, Grenada's Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Keith Mitchell, and the Foreign Affairs Minister, Honorable Peter David, are coming to Brooklyn for a special town hall meeting. All Grenadians and friends of Grenada in the diaspora are invited. Join the discussion on the state of affairs in Grenada. It's from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the auditorium of the Medgar Evers College on 1650 Bedford Avenue. Come, let your voice be heard. Thursday, September 27th, Grenada's Prime Minister and Foreign Affairs Minister in a town hall meeting at Medgar Evers College from 5 p.m.
Minister says moves to have CCJ as Grenada's final court of appeal is urgent. Details to this story and more coming up in the National Reports. Welcome back with the news in details. I am Wendy Edmond with the National Report. Grenada's Prime Minister says the move to accede to the CCJ as the final court of appeal is an urgent one. He was addressing students at the T.A. Marisha Community College during an interactive session with former CCJ President Sir Dennis Byron. Sir Dennis, who is in Grenada as the country prepares for the November 6th referendum, will also deliver the keynote address at the first public awareness meeting organized by the CCJ Advisory Committee at Deluxe Cinema in Grenville. The meeting is designed to create greater awareness on plans by Grenada on its accession to the CCJ as this country's final court of appeal. Government believes that since the CCJ bill received the majority of votes and attracted the most attention at the last referendum, it is fitting to reintroduce the process.
There are persons who may be concerned as to why are we back here at this time? What is the necessity? Some are stating, what is the urgency? I think I would want to say this. This is as urgent as you could find it.
Dr. Mitchell cautioned against politicizing an issue that is of national importance. He says acceding to the CCJ will demonstrate our true independence.
This is not a political issue. It's unfortunate when issues of national importance are before us, sometimes petty political interests come into play. This is beyond and above partisan political interests. This is not an NNP issue. It is not an NDC issue. This is a national issue.
Sir Dennis spoke to the subject of biasness of judges. He says the CCJ engages in sessions that will tackle these problems.
I've been involved in judicial education programs, and we know that every human being has biases. When you become appointed as a judge, you don't stop being a human being. And we pay a lot of attention to that. In our judicial training programs at the CCJ, and those in which we have a chance to give, we devote sessions helping people to identify what their biases are.
The Caribbean court system is back to a state of normalcy following the devastation of Hurricanes Irma and Maria in 2017. That announcement was made by Chief Justice Dame Janice Pereira, DBE of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court on Tuesday during the special court sitting to mark the opening of the new law year 2018 to 2019. The legal fraternity in Grenada joined its counterparts in St. Christopher and Nevis and the rest of the OECS via simulcast. Chief Justice Pereira said the court system in several islands were hard hit in 2017, resulting in the cancellation of the new law year opening and various court procedures.
The court building as well as the residence of the High Court judge received some damage. The court facility was forced to remain closed for several weeks whilst repairs were made and utility services restored. This physical interruption, though, did not prevent the hearing of urgent applications by telephone and video link as soon as telecommunications were restored by the direct routing of hearings to a judge located in St. Lucia. Full appeal hearings were also conducted in person and via video link from St. Lucia. Today, the court's facilities are once more fully functional and were first to resume full operations after the storm.
In Grenada, High Court Judge Madame Justice Paula Guilford called for proper court facilities to be given high priority to address the many challenges faced by the fraternity, including the backlog of cases.
It is about time that proper court facilities are constructed or a suitable building designated to house the courts. No longer should the court staff be placed in cramped and unbearable working conditions. No longer should our legal documents be left to decay because no proper arrangement has been made for their storage. No longer should there be uncertainty as to whether one would be able to sit today or any other day because the facilities that house the court may not be conducive for its purpose. The health and safety of all court users must be a priority.
The opening was guided by the theme, Challenges, Opportunities, and Resilience. The ECSC paving the way to a modern and efficient judiciary for the Eastern Caribbean. This is the National Report. More news after the break.
The house was shaking. Then suddenly saw we hear bang, crack, and the roof had gone.
Man, I was so scared, I nearly wet myself.
Only those who have lived it can truly understand the devastating fury of a hurricane's wind.
The house across the road just get up and roll over.
Hurricane force wind. It's a hazard. Hazards. Take control. Reduce your loss. You can hurricane-proof your home. For example, make your roof more wind-resistant by using screws instead of nails in its construction. Find out more about hurricane force winds and other hazards at your local disaster office.
A message from the National Disaster Management Agency and SEDERA.
Welcome back with the National Report. Grenada has welcomed its 90th group of Peace Corps volunteers. The first batch was received in 1967, 6 years after the Peace Corps was originally launched by U.S. President J.F. Kennedy. Of the 17 inducted on September 6, 2018, 12 will remain to serve in Grenada, while 5 others move on to St. Vincent. Annette Moore has the details in this report.
I promise to foster an understanding of the people of the Eastern Caribbean. I am a Peace Corps volunteer.
Thank you.
Class of Eastern Caribbean 90, my new colleagues, who stand on 89 generations of volunteer shoulders. I wish you the best life can offer and success in the work for peace.
Triano spoke to the volunteers at the induction ceremony on September 6th, along with other officials.
45 years and over 400 volunteers later, through their unstinting efforts, U.S. Peace Corps volunteers have left indelible footprints in almost every sphere of our society. It is therefore with distinct pleasure that on behalf of the Government of Grenada, the Ministry of Education, Human Resource Development and Religious Affairs, that I extend a warm welcome to the 12 volunteers comprising the 90th group of Peace Corps volunteers to the home of the oil rum, Grenada.
With the cooperation of the Ministry of Education, because I know there's a lot of work that goes into bringing all of these people in here, putting them in schools, finding places for them, and then getting all the materials that we have to get in order to make changes. So we definitely appreciate everything that you do for us.
I look at each of you and the faces that you present, because you will be the face of America. You will be the ambassadors in your community. You will be the people who show Grenada what America is all about and what we stand for.
During the ceremony, certificates of appreciation were presented by the principal officer at the U.S. Embassy, Stephen Fromm, to the local homestay providers who volunteers live with during the initial stages of their stay. Volunteers also took part in a fun exercise demonstrating their new Grenadian dialect skills and knowledge of culture. For the National Report, I'm Annette Moore.
And that story ends the National Report for today, Tuesday, September 18th, 2018. From all of us in the newsroom, I am Wendy Edmond, thanking you for viewing.
Thursday, September 27th, Grenada's Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Keith Mitchell, and Foreign Affairs Minister, Honorable Peter David, are coming to Brooklyn for a special town hall meeting. All Grenadians and friends of Grenada in the diaspora are invited. Join the discussion on the state of affairs in Grenada. It's from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the auditorium of the Medgar Evers College on 1650 Bedford Avenue. Come, let your voice be heard. Thursday, September 27th, Grenada's Prime Minister and Foreign Affairs Minister in a town hall meeting at Medgar Evers College from 5 p.m.